Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending where you are. Welcome to this webinar about CDI, our new central discovery index. In this session, I will talk about the background of creating CDI, but the main part of the session is really about what is going to change and how the move to CDI will work and affect you. With some of the developments that we're doing as part of this project, we are still in the design phase. And I will point this out. For these parts, I cannot give definite answers, but once this is finalized, we will be sharing this information as well. We just decided to start sharing information relatively early in the process, but that also means that I will not have all the answers yet. So first of all, a little bit about the background and some strategic considerations about discovery before I come to the index itself. I would like to see library discovery as something that is opening doors. We, and I mean you and us at Libris, index a lot of different material to make it available for discovery, publish and aggregator content, digital repositories, research outputs, open access content, also library catalogs, of course, everything you have locally. We have a lot of audio-visual content, just a fantastic content of Alexander Street Press and Canopy, really nice things that are very useful for students and also for other users. A lot of special collections, including archival material, manuscripts, images, etc. And then we also provide discovery enrichment, of course, with all metrics and synthetics and bound, just to give two examples. The discovery system is, of course, providing means to search and find specific items, but it is also a system that allows for exploration and learning. And it can act as a gateway to resources and information if you think, for example, of the database and resource recommenders in Primo and Summon, and the connection to RefWorks and Liganto. What discovery definitely should not be is a dead end. That is basically what we have today, and we want to extend the capabilities of our systems to provide even better services in future, or to open more doors for the users, so to speak. At the same time, our environment is changing. This is not a new development, but it made us rethink if what we are doing and where we want to be with discovery where we want to be is especially with a look into the future. Some of the changes relate to the increasing amount of material that is available. While we had hundreds, millions in the indexes a few years ago, we are well beyond the 1 billion mark today in both indexes. But it's not just the amount of material, it is also the increase of different material types. Some years ago, it was mostly about articles and books, and now we have a lot of other resource types that we index and that users want to discover. That includes audiovisual material, but also archival material, and some of the other things that I mentioned in the previous slide. But also technology specific for big data processing and data ingestion advanced, and that gives us capabilities we did not have some years ago. There's an increased focus on data mining and data science. That is not quite new again, but it was more formalized in recent years. Just think about that data science was formalized in many departments to also be a formal degree at the various universities. Intelligence gained from big data processing can be used in different areas to enhance user experience and make it simpler for users to find what they need, specifically in the quickly increasing amount of data. I should also mention artificial intelligence here in this context, and specifically machine learning algorithms that are increasingly used, for example, in text mining. And lastly, user perception is increasingly influenced by what they see and experience on social media and on consumer platforms. Think, for example, Amazon, probably the biggest example, and services that are personalization, push services, recommendations, suggestions, etc. It's just the normal or the norm for users today, and they have that expectations also from where they work when they study or research. So these are the key developments that we looked at when we evaluated where we want to be with discovery in a few years' time. We are already supporting services like BX or the citation trail, which are based on data relations. But we want to be able to do much more with contextual services in future. And creating context for the user and glanceability to illustrate how an item might help the user with their information needs is important, especially because of the increasing amount of data and the increasing amount of different material types that are available. And the starting point is to create a new index that will enable us to do just that. These are our key strategies for dealing with the changing environment and to take advantage of the opportunities new technologies can give us as well, especially to optimize the user experience for discovery. Putting data science at the core of discovery basically means to look at the data in a way that allows us to do something intelligent with it, like using algorithms to create relations and not just simply indexing it. And connecting to that, leveraging intelligence from our big data repositories. We have a huge amount of data, and that allows us over time to create algorithms to connect data, for example. I find it very important to go beyond the one search box approach. Of course, searching is important, and we will continue to enhance our search and ranking algorithms. And we always have users who come to the system, they search something, a specific item, they find it, they access it, and they go home and they're happy. But that's not every user. And given the amount and diversity of material, the one search box approach cannot be the only way for discovery. And therefore, it is important to offer contextual service in addition to the one search box approach. And for us, that means, and that brings me to the main topic of this session, to consolidate our data repositories to allow for new innovative services to be created and also to increase the operational efficiency. And that is exactly what CDI will provide us. First of all, what is CDI? It is a unified discovery index for Primo and Summon. Currently, both use different indexes. I would like to emphasize, though, that we are only unifying the discovery indexes. We continue to support both discovery products. You decided for your discovery product for a reason, and we will continue with full roadmaps for both products. So that is not going to change. It's only the central index that's going to change. What you will see is that there are database services that we will release for both products, like the citation trail and BX, but also the relationships in the index. CDI will serve both discovery products with all their variations. That is Primo with ALMA and SFX, and of course Primo V, and Summon with 360 as well as Summon over ALMA. CDI will also provide more operational efficiency. The most obvious part is that we have to do the data ingest twice at the moment, but we also want to be able to work in faster cycles to update the data, to ingest new data, and to focus more on data quality. These are long-term goals that we want to achieve with CDI. For Primo, we will also introduce single activation together with CDI. That means that you will be able to manage your collections from the ALMA and SFX back offices. And I come back to this later on because it's quite a major change. Summon, of course, already has single activation from 360, so there's not going to be a change here for Summon. I already talked about data intelligence, and we want to enhance discovery with more services that go beyond the one search box approach and provide exploration with formal and with informal relationships. And also provide more context around material and enhance glanceability, so for users understand better the relevance of an item to their need of information. Just a few words about CDI and your local data. We're actually not going to change how this is handled at the moment. For Summon customers, the data is indexed in the central index. That is currently the case, and it will continue with CDI. For Primo customers, the local data is indexed separately, and it's blended in the result list. And again, we are going to keep it that way. So nothing is going to change for your local data, neither for Summon nor for Primo. So I thought it was probably important for you to know here. But let's look at what actually does change. The top 2 points apply, of course, to both Primo and Summon. That is that we use the latest hardware architecture and also the latest version of all application frameworks. That includes Java, Cassandra, and Solr. CDI is based on Solr. There are changes for both products, but the Primo changes are more distinct for 3 reasons, actually. One is that Primo users will move to single activation at the same time, and that is a major change. That does not apply to Summon at all. Also, as I mentioned, CDI is based on Solr. Summon is already on Solr, while Primo is not. So again, from that perspective, there are more changes for Primo than for Summon. And the third reason why changes are more distinct for Primo is that we will be moving to the merged record. This here is just a brief overview. I will go into the details in a minute. So for Summon, the changes are more subtle. It is more about performance and search enhancements. for Primo, the key changes are single activation, and this is probably the biggest change. We will also offer a new option called Easy Active to simplify activation processes, and I explain this in more detail in a moment. Moving to Solar will enable us to run faster update cycles. That is for activating collections, for search and flagging, and also for flagging full text as available. This is currently up to a week, and it will change to up to 48 hours with CDI. We will also move to the record, as I already mentioned, and we will have more granular resource types. In the first release that you will all get, the resource types will not be super granular. We want to move everyone to CDI with minimal disruption. Long term, and that is really after everyone moved and is happy with CDI, we will consider more changes. That may not just apply to the resource types, but we are also looking into adding more content-related types. Just to give you an example of some of the things that we would like to change in future, like distinguishing review from research articles and identifying primary source material in the index. On Summon, we already flagged or started flagging research and review articles. You may have noticed that, but we want to take a broader look at it next year and make this kind of more usable for the user or nicer for the user to use to distinguish between different material types and use facets for filtering. Solar will allow such changes to happen much quicker. That is something that is not so simple today on Primo Central. So this is also one of the reasons to switch to Solar. The following slides explain the main changes in more details. I start with Primo just simply because the changes are bigger, but I will also say a few words about ranking changes that will apply to Summon. The first change that everybody will see is that we are moving to single activation. That means that you will no longer go to a separate UI to activate collections for search, but you can do this from the ALMA or SFX backoffice. We do ALMA first, which is also the reason why ALMA customers will move first to CDI, well, before the SFX customer, and the SFX customers will follow later. I talk about the timeline later in this presentation. The move to single activation also means that we will be adding all collections that are search only to the knowledge base or community zone for ALMA. For example, A&I databases that have no full text and that are currently not part of the knowledge base. Just think of Web of Science, Scopus, and so on. So those will be added. You activate your collections on ALMA or SFX, and that will automatically filter through to CDI. Your users will see exactly what they see today. They get the default search filtered by availability and can then expand beyond the library collection to see all other searchable content. Or if you use the expand search as your default, again, nothing is going to change. We will move all your activations that you have on your Primo Central institutional profile to the back offices of ALMA and SFX. I can at the moment not tell you how exactly this is going to look like on ALMA and SFX. We are still finalizing the design. I mentioned at the beginning that we have some areas where I cannot give detailed answers at this point, and this is one of them. We will be finalizing the design for the ALMA back office in the coming weeks. And once this is done, I will share more information. We will, of course, also make documentation available, and we're thinking of publishing a small video so you can familiarize yourself with what it looks like ahead of your move to CDI. Today on Primo Central, you have full flexibility in activation collections for search. That also means that you need to maintain your activations. So for example, if you buy a new collection, you need to have the processes in place to activate those for search, as well as activating the full text for delivery. So on one hand, it's a real advantage to have that flexibility, and I know that some of you really value that, but it also comes with work. We found in the past years that many of you would like to simplify this and have collections activated automatically, while others would prefer full flexibility. So with CDI, we will be introducing a second, much simpler model to activate and manage search collections. This model is not mandatory. You will all be moved with your settings as they are today, and you will have full flexibility on ALMA and SFX. Actually, you will have more flexibility even than you have today. But it's all going to be moved in the same way as it is today. If you choose, you can then move to a much simpler model, and that is the Easy Active setting. So let's look at this in a little bit more detail. The Easy Active setting continues to give you full control and flexibility over what items appear as full text available. This is controlled by your settings on ALMA, later SFX. So in other words, you control what appears in your default search. The majority of collections will be available for search by default, automatically. You don't need to activate it for search. The advantage is that the collections will be available far quicker for your users for search after they have been added. There's no delay involved with having to kick off a process to activate for search, especially if there are no processes in place to activate collections after acquisition, for example. That is a problem that I heard from various sites, that there's no good process between different people or departments, and so collections are not activated for a while, although they're already subscribed to or purchased. And that's a shame, of course, because it's obviously valuable content that you are buying for a reason. So this should also be available as soon as possible to your users. So this setting would solve this problem. I should also add here that we changed the behavior of collections that are set to full text available on collection level. That applies, for example, to Alexander Street Press collections or to the institutional repositories as well. Currently, if you activate them for search, they will also automatically be set to full text available. In the Easy Active setting, they will be active for search, but you determine whether they should also be set to full text available. This is fully under your control. So it's really up to you how you want to, or what you want to have appear in your initial search, in your availability, in your default search. There are going to be exceptions. That is the abstracting and indexing databases that you have to subscribe to before they can be used for searching. For example, again, in Web of Science, Scopus, etc. This also applies to very regional collections that are in local languages, but have, for example, English metadata. For regions where this language is not spoken, these would just clutter the result list. I don't think that students who don't speak, for example, Korean want to have a lot of Korean content appearing in their result list. You can, of course, activate them if they are relevant for your users. So these are very regional resources that are just support certain languages which are not relevant for everyone. And the third exceptions are reference databases, from Encyclopedia Britannica to Wikipedia. These also tend to clutter the result list specifically for short topic searches. So it should be a local decision which of them is of value to your users, which of them you want to activate and have searchable in your discovery. The Easy Active setting is quite different from the fully flexible option that you have today, but I think it has some distinct advantages, especially if you do not have the time to always follow up on activations. The setting is best for institutions that use the full text available filter for the default search. It is probably less interesting for those of you who use the expand search as the default search, but obviously it is open to everyone. So regardless, you can, of course, use it. Just to explain a bit more the terminology I just used, I have a screenshot here because sometimes this can be confusing with the Easy Active model and how it works and what it looks like, etc. So I just explain it briefly again on the screenshot. Your default search here filters the results by those items that are available in full text. The full text setting is fully under your control with Easy Active. You determine which collections and which content is available in full text. That includes all collections, also those that are set to full text available on collection level. In the expand search, that is on my right-hand side here, that is if the user clicks on expand beyond the library collection, everything will be searchable by default, with the exception of the subscribed ANI databases, the reference collections, and some regional collections. Those will only be part of the search if you activate them. I hope I did not totally confuse you, but if you have any questions about this, please ask at the end of the session or send me an email. It's really quite simple, actually. I suspect that the Summon users among you found the Easy Active setting quite familiar, because this is very similar to how Summon activations via the 360 back office work today. We looked at it on purpose. We checked how it works on Summon, how it works on Primo. We didn't actually reflect entirely what we have on Summon today. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar, and it works well for Summon. So we thought that this is also probably a model that we can apply to Primo. Not to everyone, as I said, it's your choice. It's not a mandatory setting, but I think it's worth considering. The second change that I want to point out is the move from the group to the merged record for Primo. In Primo Central, we have a group record, and in Summon, we have a merged record, and we just had to decide which way we wanted to go with CDI, and we found that the merged record is just more user-friendly. This is why we decided to go for that. This is not a screenshot of the merged record. This shows the grouped record as it looks today, just to make it a little bit clearer what I'm talking about. Today you get a see all link on top of those records that are part of a group, and if you click on it, you see a list of all versions. So this will go away. You will not have this anymore. We will use the same merging mechanism that Summon uses today, and you'll find a URL here to a Knowledge Center article that describes the mechanism in more detail. Have a look at it. If you have any more questions about this, send an email. We also update those articles depending on what questions we get and what is missing. So please do ask questions if there's anything missing, and we try our best to answer that. The next change is about resource types. I think I already said that we do not make any drastic changes. We do not want to cause any disruption for your users when you move to CDI, but we introduce some changes that some of our customers have asked for a while. This is just a good opportunity to make such changes. I should add here that resource types will be product specific. That means that Summon resource type will not change. For the Primo resource types, we had a lot of support from the content working group that is part of our user groups, Igelo and Eluna, for selected resource types, and that was extremely helpful, I have to say. It is sometimes not so simple to make the right choice here, so that help was very much appreciated. And that same applies actually to the Easy Active setting. The discussions with the working group helped us a lot with the design of both parts, both features. So we have 6 new resource types here and a few changes. The new resource types are the archival material manuscripts, computer file, market research, microform, newspaper. We have newspaper articles, but we didn't have newspaper, and standards. And then there are a few changes. The first one is review and book review. We have a review resource type currently in Primo Central that was very confusing for many people. Also because there were some mistakes made when we indexed some of the collections. So sometimes actually review articles were labeled as review, although review was meant originally really just for book reviews and the likes, not for review articles. So that caused a lot of confusion here, and we're going to resolve this in CDI. So review articles are articles, book reviews are book reviews. So that's going to be clear. I think I said earlier that we would like in future to label research articles and review articles separately from the resource types, maybe add something like a content type in addition of the resource types, or do it somehow otherwise. In Summon, we already started labeling them, so you can actually see on the UI if something is a research article or a review article, but we want to do this also more like something that users can take and create a facet or something for it. So these are plans for next year. This is just long-term plans. I just wanted to mention this because I was talking about the book review and the review articles and the labeling. The other changes, data set, this is one where we merged 2 resource types just simply for practical reasons. There were research data sets and statistical data sets, but we didn't really distinguish very well between them. It was just not possible to do that. So there's no value really to keep both. So we're merging them into the data set. The report is just a renaming. It was previously technical report. We just renamed it a report just simply because it contains all sorts of reports, not just technical reports. And the last change is something many people asked for, and that's the audiovisual material. We're going to separate the audiovisual material into audio and the images and other visual material with resource types, but also in the facets. It was just difficult to do in Primo Central for technical reasons. It's not so easy to change things in that index, but that will be something that we can change in CDI. So we're going to do that. So you're going to have that separation when you move to CDI. There will be some changes in search and ranking, but they will not be dramatic. Again, we don't want to cause too much disruption here. Specifically for Summon, we make some changes to short topic searches, and I come back to this in a minute. We will also improve known item searches, and we will add more language-specific improvements. Some of this is not finalized yet, so I cannot provide any more details or list or anything, but we have a list of enhancements that are going through analysis right now, and then we're going to decide which ones we're going to implement. For the short topic searches, we introduced a concept of the mixed result list some years ago in Primo, and that will also be available in CDI. The mixed result list does not always kick in, but for certain short topic searches where we have the right material available, the result list will consist of 2 or 3 items that could be classified as overview articles or books. This is usually material that provides information about the topic in relatively high level. And then we add from the 4th to the 10th place of the result list specific research material that is new. The idea is that we found that we don't really know what users are looking for if they search for a short topic. Are they looking for a definition, for a book that describes it in general, or are they looking for the newest research? It's really something very difficult to guess here. And the mixed result list offers an entry point, and the user can then decide what material they are looking for and go from there. So I show an example. Let me just switch to the next slide. This is an example. I searched for humanism. I got my topic overview, and then I got the result list. I show this here in actually two lists because I couldn't get the entire list on the screen. So you see on the left side the first article, which is just an overview article. It's just called Humanism. It's an exact title match. And the second one is a book chapter, also an exact title match. Again, another book chapter, an exact title match is the third one. And then from the 4th place, I have very specific and more specialized articles. So in this case, this is an article from 2019. And again, the next one is also an article from 2019. So this is a newer material. It's kind of reflects the latest research on items. So this is something that we're also going to introduce in CDI. Again, it's not going to come up for every short topic search because we don't always have the right material, or we can't always recognize that material very well. But where we can, we're going to provide that. The local material, that is, everything that's coming from your local catalogs, is being blended into this result list. So sometimes actually the things are boosted down a little bit more. But this is generally the idea of the mixed result list, which you're also going to see on CDI. So these were the key changes that come with the move to CDI. This is a slide that I already showed before. I just used this as a summary to kind of emphasize again the key changes for the 2 products. So for Primo, the key changes are the move to single activation with the optional easy active setting that you can use. We are also going to move to faster update cycles. Activation's availability flag will be available within 48 hours. At the moment, it's a week. We're moving to the merged record instead of the grouped record. And we're going to have more granular resource types, and in some cases also just renaming, and one of them we merge one. But generally it's more granular resource types. For Summon, we have the enhanced performance, move to an upgraded infrastructure, and also the search enhancements that are going to come with CDI, specifically for known items and also for short topic searches. And I just described the mixed result list that is part of that change. Okay, so I come now to the rollout of CDI. It's a longer project, and that is primarily because of the move to single activation in Primo. You can actually see in phase 1 we move all the Summon customers because there is nothing to move to in terms of single activation. It's still going to be 360. It's not going to be any major change for that, and we can just move the Summon customers. For the Primo customers, because of the move to single activation, it's just a bigger project and it will just take longer. We will work this year with a number of customers to run tests and check that the move and the single activation process are seamless. There's no local data involved, only local activation of globally provided data, so no big migration needed. But of course, we will move your activations, and the connection between ALMA and later SFX and CDI needs to work. So this is basically what we're going to do in these projects. The working group is the first customer group that is going to get access to CDI. That is a group of 5 customers who agreed to work with us. They were going to work with us very closely. We're going to move their activations, and they're going to look at the single activation to make sure that the processes all work. So they help us with testing, and they're also going to have a look at the index to see that the activations are correctly reflected on CDI. At the same time, that's actually on the second part of phase 0, so to speak, with the working group. We're also going to have some members of the content working groups who will have a look at CDI and run some tests on CDI without localization, just to look at the index and give us their feedback. And then we have in phase 1 all the summon customers. They're just being moved over as one. Fairly easy because of no single activation move. Also, summon is already on Solar, so it's all kind of fairly easy to move the summon customers. And then we have at the same time the so-called early access group for Primo Alma. That is a group of customers that in the second phase will help us again testing. They're going to work very closely with us. At this point, everything is already finalized, but we want to make some final checks to make sure that everything works. So we're going to work very closely with them. And the idea is that all of those customers who get access to CDI this year, that's the working group and the early access customers, they're going to move to production with CDI over the Christmas break or a little bit after Christmas. And then we're starting with phase 2. Phase 2 is all the Primo Alma and Primo V customers, of course, and everybody is going to move. We have not yet a project plan for that, so at this point I cannot tell you exactly when your institution is going to move. So it's going to happen between February 2020 and May 2020. But again, we are going to figure out the project a little bit later in the process, and then we will also know which environment is being switched first, and also for the local customers or the customers with local Primo installations when they're going to be moved. And then we also work with early access customers for Primo SFX customers. Again, we'll need to move the single activation. We need to make sure that this all works really well. And then the phase 3 is to move all the Primo SFX customers, and that should be finalized by October 2020. So that's the general plan. Again, I cannot tell you at the moment when exactly your institution is going to move. That is only something that we know for the working group and the early access customers. The working group consists of 5 customers. This is already a set group. We try to have a variety of different customer types in that group. Early access is something that we are currently doing. So currently there are some invitations going out, and we'll just see also that we have a variety of different customer types, institution types, joining that group to cover kind of all scenarios here. So this is the CDI rollout plan. So CDI is not just about the new index. I talked a bit about contextual relations before. You probably noticed that we started building those relations and started to make them available on the Primo and Summon user interfaces. This is in fact a feature that we built as part of CDI. We built a graph database that sits on top of CDI and connects items within CDI, but also local data. At the moment, it's also translated into Summon and into Primo Central, but ultimately it's a CDI feature. We just wanted already to make it available now. But ultimately it's a CDI feature, and you will get it also when you move to CDI, of course. The relations themselves are built over time. Some of them are more difficult than others, I have to say, and that is mostly related to having or not having unique identifiers. You probably noticed that you don't have the relations for every item. That's something that we're increasing over time. We also connect by metadata key, not just by identifiers, but that is also not that simple, and we are quite conservative at the moment to not create any false positives. So you will see those relations increase over time, but I hope that you already had the chance to look at them, and I hope you find this useful. I think it's a really nice feature for your users. There are a number of different relations that we're looking into. Obviously, in theory, there are lots of relations that are desirable, but not all of them are feasible at this time. You can see a number of relations on this nice graph. We started building relationships already before CDI, for example, BX and the citation trail. Both were built before we even thought of doing CDI, and we integrated them into both, into Summon and into Primo. But when it became clear that this was the right way to go with discovery, we needed a different approach, and that is what the graph database gives us. In future, while we are adding more data, we can also add more relations then. For example, we add increasingly ORCIDs to the index to uniquely identify authors. And at one point, this and other authority data will enable us to build more relations based on author, for example, and co-authors. So it's about the data, but it's also, of course, about the matching and about building the relations. And that will all increase over time. For now, we focused on relations that we're able to build with identifiers and with some of the metadata keys. We started with books-to-book reviews and books-to-book chapters. Those relations will be extended over time, while we added further matching keys as well. We had some plans for that for later this year, and then we add the articles to research data next. I already mentioned authors. That one we need to evaluate if this is feasible at this time, because we need to have the identifiers and uniquely identify the authors. And the same applies to journal articles and other articles of the same journal issue. We might still change this. It has to go through an analysis process, of course, and that will determine what we do next in terms of relations. But these are in general our plans and our ideas for moving forward with this feature. Just two screenshots in case you haven't not seen this feature yet. This is how it looks like on Summon. You see it on the brief result list, reviews and chapters link if both are available, in fact. And then you get a little window or a little interface on the right-hand side where you see the reviews and chapters with two different tabs, and you can just click through them. In Primo, it looks a little bit different. We put it actually on the full view of a book. So you have the book about Abraham Lincoln here, and you get chapters of this book reviews. If you click on the chapters for this book, you get a list of chapters, and you click on book reviews, you get a list of the book reviews. So this is what it looks like, and I really hope that you had a chance to look at it. I already mentioned that we have a number of services that offer a discovery experience beyond the one search box. We have the BX Recommender that offers recommendations based on what users use together. We have the citation trail that mimics the search behavior of researchers who often go from one reference list to the next one to find more material of their topic. That's something that I remember really well from my days when I looked for literature, because it's one of the tools that I used. I went from one reference list to the next reference list, and it really gave me very easily a lot of material already without having to conduct another search. We have the Topic Explorer on Summon and the About the Topic feature at Primo, and now we also have the Contextual Relations. I think these features offer some important benefits to users. They can easily and quite quickly find material with only one search. The one search is the entry point, or they choose an item from the result list as the entry point, and from there they can explore further and also find further material. And the services provide a serendipitous discovery experience, and users also learn more about the topic by finding more keywords, which is also very important. And we found this a lot when we conducted user interviews, that they just said that they didn't really know everything or every aspect of a topic, and they needed to learn more. And also those services create context and glanceability around material, also something important, especially with the measurement of material that is available. So it's really about moving from a search system to a real discovery system, and such services are an important part of that. Okay, so this is almost my last slide. It it was also at the beginning of my presentation. It's the same slide, and I use it as a kind of summary. There are a number of reasons why we are creating the Central Discovery Index. Part of it is to be ready for the future. More material types, and just a better discovery experience for our user in an environment where there is masses of material available and users need to find what's really important for their work and their context. So operational efficiency is important, of course, and also the ability to create services around data and around material. We have some more information available. I mentioned that at the beginning, but here are also the links. We published an overview of CDI on our Knowledge Center, and we have an FAQ. The FAQ will be extended over time. It also lives from getting questions from you, actually, because we can't really, we don't really think of everything, but you obviously have questions, and so we'll try to enhance this with everything that we think is really important or valid for everyone and good for everybody to know. So there's one for Primo and one for Summon, because obviously there are some differences here. What's changing for one product doesn't necessarily change for the other product, so we kept it apart. There's also an email address, CDI-info, that you can use to post questions. We have now 15 minutes to answer any questions that you have, but you can also use this for further questions if you think about something later on, or if we don't manage to answer everything today. So this is an email address that is monitored by a few people. You can also send something, of course, directly to me, but it's always better to have it on a more general email address. So thanks very much, everybody, for joining. We're happy to get you more questions via the email address. Otherwise, we are very excited about CDI. It's a very important development, also strategically important development for us, for many different reasons. And I hope that you're excited about it as well. So thanks again, everyone.